Hello, thanks for joining us. I'm Dan Bennett here with Ian McCullough, Ben Kosky, and former QPR striker Kevin Gallen. If you didn't catch our transfers video earlier in the week, go and have a watch. We talked about all the QPR's January transfer activity, what happened on deadline day, what they didn't do as well, and our sort of thoughts on that. But we do have some actual football to talk about as well. Obviously, a massive result for QPR on Saturday, 4-0 home win over struggling Reading. Kev, you were in the upper loft, weren't you? I think for the first time. You said you've been there for a while. Enjoy it with the fans, and was it a case of QPR being sort of really good, or were Reading really poor, somewhere in between? What were your sort of thoughts on that?
Probably a bit of both, but once you score when you score off your first two chances, it's going to be a day, isn't it? Could have been more. Amos hit the post. He then scored a fine goal, but yeah, QPR were just too good in both. Do you know what? In every department, in both boxes, they won their headers. They won defensively. They were solid. Won their headers, won their tackles, and when they did get through it right at the death, Marshall made a fantastic save. And then in the other box, Dykes scores two cracking headers. So does Dunn from a corner. And the breakaway goal was superb as well from Amos. And then in midfield, we dominated, really. It was just a top all-round performance. And, yeah, very good. Very good to sit in the upper loft. Really enjoyed it. Hopefully I'll go back there soon. Gives you a completely different perspective of the game. Yeah, it was a really, really good performance from QPR.
Saw that good picture. I think it's you and your son in front of that, the Kevin Gallen's magic, having a piss.
Weren't actually... He wasn't actually going to the toilet, but I grabbed him and said, stand there.
Just for the photo.
Actually, yeah.
Taking photos in the men's toilets? What's wrong with you?
That is dodgy. You ain't getting invited back. Yeah, it was. You touched on it in our other video, Kev. It's big for Lyndon Dykes, isn't it? Because he's had the injury problems. He's not been in great goal scoring form recently. So to come back and score two proper centre forward goals as well, weren't they? Two really good headers. It's pretty big for him. Hopefully, he can push on now and do what he did last season.
Yeah, he's obviously had a great end to last season, and then he went to the Euros in Scotland, and that would have been a massive highlight for him. And he's come back. Fortunately, he's got injured, and it's been a bit of a stop-start. He hasn't scored probably the goals that he would have liked to have scored for this stage of the season, but hopefully he can go on that similar run to what he did last season. His confidence now will be sky high. He'll probably want to play against Peterborough on Saturday. And look, when you're scoring goals and your confidence high, you want to play every game. You might have the odd knock in here, but you just want to play because you feel like you're going to score goals. And hopefully for Lyndon now, the end of the season, for this last 3 months of the season, he can go on a similar run, which he did last season. And if he does, that'll be a great help, and that will push us right in amongst it for either an automatic, but definitely playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a fit, healthy, sort of firing Dykes would be massive for QPR going for promotion. Like if he can do what he did last season, that'd be such a boost. But the main kind of talking point I want to come on to for this video, and you mentioned Marshall a minute ago there, Kevin, that good save he made, I think it's from Lucas Jow, wasn't it, towards the end of the game. And since he's come in, it was not a planned signing, was it? It was obviously Jordan Archer was going to come in, what it looked like, and fill in for Seny Dieng while he was away with Senegal. But obviously done his shoulder in the penalty shootout against Rotherham. Unfortunately for him, obviously he's not had loads of opportunity at QPR, so it would have been good for him. But Marshall, that was done pretty quickly, and since he's come in, he's done really well. I think he's kept 3 clean sheets. I think he's only conceded 1 goal since he's been at the club. So it kind of opens up this debate, and I think I see a lot of fans talking about it on kind of social media, whether, Seny, obviously other clubs have looked at him and because of how well he's done since he's come to the club. But Kev, given how well Marshall has done, is it an automatic thing for Dieng to walk back into the team when he comes back? What do you think about
that? It's a really tough question, and I think it really, for me personally, if the manager thinks that Marshall is better for next Wednesday against Middlesbrough than Dieng, then he'll play him. I don't think at this stage of the season he will say to the coaching staff or to people, oh, well, Seny went to the African nations and, he'd done really well before, so I have to bring him back. Look, this is a big, big chance for QPR to get promoted this season. I think this is this is the year, if we're going to do it, it's got to be this year. I think it's all sort of coming together. I think it's so important that the manager is strong and says, I'll play him because I think he's better. Now, that's his decision. My decision, I'm going to sit on the fence on this one because Seny Dieng has done well, but so has Marshall. But I'm now going to sit off the fence. I'm going to say Marshall should carry on until if he makes a mistake or does something silly, then you bring him back because I think he's done really well. And he's got the experience of these big matches. He's played for Scotland in the Euros. He's played in big games. That's what I think.
Thanks for getting off the fence. You can't play two keepers, Kev. You can only play
on it for 5 seconds.
But it is a really tough call for the manager. It's one of the toughest probably he'll have to make in terms of who plays since he's been QPR manager, because it'll be very harsh on Dieng. I think if he comes back from African Cup of Nations and sees that his place has been taken by another goalkeeper, but Marshall's been really good. You can't ignore that, and the team has looked really good with him in it. But I'll say what I think in a minute, but I'll open it up to the floor. Ian, what do you think about this? Is Dieng come back straight back in when he comes back?
Yes.
Simple as that.
Yep. Marshall's been great. They've got a bit of a touch there because he's better keeper than Jordan Archer. Unfortunately, with Jordan Archer, he obviously got injured. So getting him in, been there, he's seen there, he's done it. He's played at huge games, bigger games than any of the matches he's played with QPR at the moment. Precisely what we want for a backup keeper, come in and do a job. But, Dieng did nothing wrong before he went to AFCON. It's not his fault. The AFCON's in the middle of the season. He's gone to AFCON. He's played 2 matches, kept clean sheets. I think he's a better keeper. I do. I think his distribution is better. I think he's better with the ball at his feet, Seny. A game at Coventry, Marshall a couple of times his kicking was a little bit awry, kicked a couple into the stand. There was one poor kick out of the hand that almost led to a Coventry goal, albeit he saved it. But again, very rarely you see Dieng, mess up the ball at his feet. Since he's taken the gloves, he's not done much wrong. He's been kept QPR in many matches. Game earlier a few weeks ago against Bristol City, that game would have been done after 10 minutes. He made 3 brilliant saves. He's done absolutely nothing wrong. He's the first team keeper. He was brought in to replace Seny temporarily. Seny's a player that is an asset. You can get money for him. You're not going to get money for David Marshall. He's younger. He's a better goalkeeper. So yeah, he comes back, he plays. That being said, if he doesn't play, I wouldn't be that upset if Marshall does stay in the goal, but because he's done absolutely nothing wrong. But it's Seny's job to lose, and he's not out of the team due to injury. He's not out of the team due to suspension. It's just a situation that's out of his control that he's not there. So he deserves to get the shirt back.
Very well, case very well made there. Yeah, Ben, do you agree with that? What do you think about this?
Ian gave a straight answer. He said yes. I say no.
Marshall stays.
Marshall stays. It's very simple. Possession is 9/10 of the law. Marshall's the man in possession. As we've said, he's done very little wrong so far. So my view is you leave him in the side until such time as he does something to justify being dropped. I think another factor in this, and we've spoke, Kev has pointed out, Marshall has vast experience, not only at international level, but I think what is also significant is he has experience of playing in promotion-winning sides. He played for Cardiff when they went up. He also played when they lost in a playoff final. Those are both scenarios that QPR could potentially find themselves in this season.
And would you feel comfortable if we're in big games like that with Seny in goal?
I would, and that's the second point I'm going to make, is that, similar to what you said, I wouldn't be distraught if Seny Dieng went back into the side as well. I think Seny is an excellent keeper. I think it would be fascinating to see the two of them battling for the shirt. But my feeling is, as I say, the man in possession holds onto a shirt until he gives you a reason to lose it. And at the moment, I think Marshall has been terrific. I mean, you take that game against Reading as an example. He had very little to do for a lot of the game because Rangers were so dominant. And yet, when he was called upon, you know, it was faultless. He made a couple of really good saves in that game. So I think we've also got to look at the long-term aspect of this. I mean, Marshall is on a deal to the end of the season, which in effect they had to give him because, you know, you've got to they had to get somebody in once Jordan Archer got injured. But everything could well be up in the air in the summer, and a lot of things will depend on primarily what's been the outcome of the season, whether Rangers are a championship side or whether they've managed to get into the Premier League. And then you make decisions then. But I don't think it's a bad thing, to be honest, if you have a situation where you don't have a clear first choice keeper. And throwing this back to Kev, because remembering some of the QPR sides you would have played in, I think there was often a situation where you couldn't sort of hand on heart say, this is our number one keeper. You know, you'd often have a couple sort of pushing each other for the shirt, coming in and out of the side. And, you know, my impression was that wasn't necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, it honestly, it really is. I mean, when Ian just put his point there, I was wavering. I went, yeah, he's right. And then you say that, and I'm like, yeah, do you know what? He's right. It's a very difficult situation. The manager has to sort of sit down with his coaches and think, right, what is the best for the next 3 months? What is the best person to go between the posts for QPR to get promotion? And he'll have to be ruthless, because if he thinks it's Marshall, he's going to have to be ruthless and say to Seny Dieng, who, like Ian said, not his fault. The African nations is in the middle of the season, but he'll have to be ruthless and think, well, if I think this is my best chance of getting promotion, then I'll have to take it. It's really a tough decision. And to be honest, if Seny Dieng is in goal, I wouldn't have a problem with it. If Marshall's in goal, I wouldn't have a problem, because I think they're both very good keepers. I do think Dieng is probably a bit better because younger. But, you know, if you're going to go for experience or big games, and another thing is, who do the three centre halves feel comfortable with? You know, I don't know. I don't really watch goalkeepers, to be honest. But who's the most vocal with the centre halves? And do you know what I mean? And that's a big thing in football, where the goalie's talking to the defenders constantly. And I'm definitely going to watch that the next game, and then we can go back to this question, and Dan, and then I can answer it a little bit better.
All right.
Kev, how much I've heard it said that a lot of managers don't really pay much attention to the goalkeepers. They kind of sort of swayed by the goalkeeping coach and what he thinks and take guidance. Is that more common than we think?
Do you know what? It's a strange one, Ian, because it's basically the team train, and then the goalie coaches and the goalie is over there about 200 metres away on their own, having a great time, just kicking the ball at each other while everyone's running about. And we'll be like, look at there, having a great time. And then if there's like a five-a-side or crossing and finishing, the manager will say, need 2 goalies. And then he'll send over 2 goalies. And that might not necessarily be the first team goalie. Because a lot of the times the first team goalie will say, nah, I don't want to go over there. So if you're doing shooting practice at the end of a training session, the first team goalie rarely gets involved in that, because it just becomes a bit of banter with the strikers and the keeper, and it gets a bit of Mickey taking. So they sort of send over the younger goalie, as I call him, cannon fodder. Yeah, well, the first team goalie doesn't want me or a centre forward from 5 yards smashing the ball at his face. So you know what I mean? So it is a little bit of a separate, and it's sort of like they're not even football players, to be honest. So they're over, and the manager would be talking to the goalie coach constantly, yeah. And the goalie and the goalie coach are like that. Really, that's the goalies will talk to the goalie coach and confide in them more than they would talk to the manager. And then the goalie coach would talk to the manager about it.
don't even think the real question anymore is who should play. It's who out of Marshall and Dieng is the cannon fodder. Who's the one who's got to go get the ball smashed at his face?
None of them.
Yeah.
None of them.
Yeah. I know I had a bit of a joke with you, Geko, about being on the fence, but I'm very on the fence of it. It's such a tough decision. I'm sort of leaning just more towards Ian's argument there with Dieng coming back in, just because I think it'd be so harsh to take him out of the team after going away to the African Cup of Nations, considering he was pretty, there was a couple of times where maybe he got beat at his near post where he came in for a bit of criticism, but I don't think he's made anything that's massively his fault, and he was playing really well. And I think you look at the goalkeeping situation before he came in with Joe Lumley and Liam Kelly, and there was so much instability in that position, and it really cost QPR, and Dieng just came in and totally fixed that and was magnificent. So I think it'd be very harsh to take him out. And
I'll just throw in one other factor though, Dan, which comes back to what you're just saying there. I think, to me, it's always a dangerous situation if you've got a player who knows they're guaranteed their place in the team. And if you put Seny Dieng straight back in the team, that sends a message to him that he can't be dropped. I don't think that's healthy from his point of view.
Jurgen Klopp's thinking about Mo Salah when he comes back. And Diego Jota.
Okay, a scenario. Seny Dieng comes back against Middlesbrough, makes a massive mistake. We lose 1-0. Everyone will be giving it. Why did he change the goalie?
I think he will. I think Marshall will play against Middlesbrough though, because I think Dieng will come back. I think he flies back in from Cameroon on the Monday morning, Tuesday morning.
What, was he on holiday?
No, because they got the third, fourth playoff, haven't they? And the final on the Sunday. The final's on the Sunday, isn't it? So, and the third, fourth playoffs on the Sunday. So, the time he flies in, I'd imagine that they'll probably stick with Marshall.
Yeah, I think you've got to think. Obviously, I know you said there, Kev, about who's going to be the best now to the end of the season, but I think there is a kind of long-term thing that comes into it as well. Dieng is the goalkeeper who's going to be there for the future. Marshall's there to the end of the season. Marshall leaves, next year. I know Mark Warburton won't be thinking too far ahead. You never know how long you're going to be at a club when you're a manager, do you? But, if he drops Dieng now for the rest of the season and brings it back in next season, I just don't see how that makes sense, especially since I think they're at a very similar ability level. And I think Dieng, like I said, has been the first choice. He knows the central defenders. They work well together. I just think it's the most sensible move to get him back in. But it's very difficult because Marshall has done really well. So it's
another scenario. Marshall plays at the end of the season. QPR get promotion. Marshall leaves at the end of the season. Seny Dieng's now number one in the Premiership.
Quite strange though, isn't it? He's not played in the. I don't know. It's weird. Very strange. Maybe they'll have to get Marshall back if that happens.
You could just throw a real spanner in the works here, Dan, and say, actually, I'd leave both of them out. Joe Walsh deserves a chance.
Yeah. Give it Joe Walsh. Jordan Archer when he comes back from his shoulder injury. Yeah. Well,
play your best players. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's just who does the manager think's the best? We don't. Yeah. Can we ask him in the next interview, Dan?
Yeah. Well, we might potentially be speaking to him soon. We'll have to wait and see. So maybe I'll. Who's better, Seny Dieng or David Marshall? I'm not sure I'll get a great answer to that one, to be honest. But let us know what you think in the comments. Anyway, let us know who you think should be the first choice keeper for the rest of the season. Please leave the video a like as well if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel. And we'll be back later in the week with our predictions for Peterborough in the FA Cup on Saturday.